Hi guys, anyone who's watched my channel for more than 15 seconds knows full well that this lens right here, the Sigma 16mm f1.4, is my #1 recommended lens when it comes to video production and APS-C cameras. I have called this lens the best value mirrorless lens of all time, and it certainly has been. However, check this out. To my left here, this handsome devil, he has something to tell you about another 16mm lens that's even cheaper than the very fairly priced Sigma 16. So let's see what he has to say. Now you are looking at the Yongnuo 16mm f1.8, and I really expected when I started these tests for the Sigma 16 to absolutely blow this lens out of the water when it came to testing, because the Sigma is such a fantastic lens. But that is not what happened at all, so we definitely need to talk about that. Let me put up a side-by-side right now of this shot with the last shot of the Sigma so that you can see how close they are in terms of image quality. Of course, you're going to get a slightly blurrier background with that 1.4 versus 1.8, but it's not that dramatic of a difference. Here is another example. This is me in my studio. I've set up this shot for your viewing pleasure so that you can see the differences between the two if you are using them at their maximum aperture in the studio. This is how it looks. Here's the thing, I'm just going to say right now, these are two excellent options at excellent prices, but they do have different strengths and weaknesses, so you're going to want to stick around and hear about those. Plus, that would really help me out with the algorithm and, you know, making money and stuff. So let's get into it. So here we are using my main shot in my studio. I am on the Yongnuo 16 right now. I will switch back and forth between the Sigma 16 and the Yongnuo, but first, can I just say that I am so impressed with the image quality coming out of the little ZV-E10, my little Dougie, and these two very affordable lenses. It's just like, for real, I have full frame cameras that are much more expensive, but the image quality of that camera and these lenses, that combination, it just competes so mightily with those full frame cameras. I love it. You don't have to spend $1 billion. I couldn't be happier to be able to talk about these types of things for people, especially they're on a budget, or they don't want to spend a ton of money, or they're starting their content creation career. You can get, look at this, professional looking results with really affordable gear. So I think that's cool, but let's put these up side by side right now. The Sigma's at 1.4 and the Yongnuo is at 1.8 at their maximum aperture. So you will see a little more background separation with that Sigma lens. You have 2/3 of a stop of light more with the Sigma 16. But in truth, in the studio, I actually usually use my lenses at f2 with my APS-C cameras because I'm usually showcasing products or doing demonstrations. So I don't like too much of a shallow depth of field. And f2 is pretty good for me, so that extra 2/3 of a stop of light won't make much of a difference for me in this studio, but it certainly would make a difference in low light performance. And of course, I should make some disclosures. Yongnuo sent over the 16mm for the purpose of this review at no cost to myself, and Sigma has been sending over lenses for years. Since this channel began, Sigma have been sending over lenses for the purposes of review, so I appreciate that from both of these companies, and I have no skin in the game. I don't care which one you buy, if any. I just want to show you both lenses, and then you can make, you know, your conclusions for yourself based on my test and based on your needs. But thanks to those guys for sending out lenses. And of course, no money changed hands, and the companies don't get to preview this video. They are seeing it the same way that you fine folks are. When looking at the build quality of the Sigma lens, we have no bells, no whistles, no switches, no buttons, no dials, just a hard plastic lens with a nice rubber focus ring that turns exceptionally smoothly. We have a 67mm filter thread, which is one of the most common filter thread sizes. On the back, we have no rubber gasket for weather sealing, so no real weather sealing that we can speak of. Just an optically fantastic lens with no extras. And it also comes standard with a nice petal lens hood. Now let's talk about the build quality of the Yongnuo 16mm f1.8, and this is an extremely impressive build quality. As you can see here, it is much smaller and is also lighter than the Sigma 16mm. And the actual lens itself is all metal, including a metal focus ring that turns extremely smoothly. It also has an autofocus to manual focus switch and a focus hold button. I did not expect that at this price, nor was that necessary at this price. It also is a weather-sealed lens, so dust and moisture resistant. There is a generous rubber gasket on the back there, and that is really, really great to see. The filter size is 58 millimeters, so not the most uncommon thread size in the world, but also not as common as the 67 on the Sigma. Under this little stopper here, it has a USB-C port, so you can update the lens even without the camera. You can just connect your computer directly to the lens for updates. And it comes with a relatively cheap feeling petal lens hood. Nothing special about the lens hood here. Now, because a lot of you are going to want to see how these lenses operate in a vlogging scenario, let's go outside right now in the real world and I will show you a vlog scenario. So here we are vlogging our gorgeous faces, as I like to do, on the Sigma 16mm f1.4. Not my ideal focal length for vlogging. I normally like the Sony 11mm f1.8 because the 16mm, that is about a 24mm field of view, full frame equivalence, and that is too tight, especially if you want to use the active stabilization in a camera like the ZV-E10. This actually crops in about 40% in active stabilization. The other Sonys crop in about 10%, and to me, still too tight. Let me show you what that looks like right now. So this is still with the extended selfie stick, but in active stabilization here on the ZV-E10. If I were to hold it by the camera, it's even closer. So right there, you see, that is too tight even for a mug like this. So let's switch back to the gyro data. There you go. Now you can see all of this gorgeous scenery behind me because I live in the most expensive neighborhood in the world. I am very successful. Now we're on the Yongnuo 16mm, and I have to say this is a much better vlogging experience because it is a smaller, lighter weight lens. Don't get me wrong, I have Herculean strength. I could lift any lens for any length of time, but it's always nice to have a smaller, more compact setup. I have a little ZV-E10, tiny little Lark M2 from Hollyland for my microphone, and my little Ulanzi selfie stick / tripod. Very nice, convenient setup. Once again, not ideal in terms of its focal length. I'd like it to be a bit wider, so I either have to use the Catalyst brows or I can use a gimbal, which leads us to an interesting point. So let's retreat to the safety of my studio. I don't have social anxiety. You have social anxiety. I did find the Yongnuo a lot easier to take around in terms of vlogging. I was using this, by the way. This is my little extender selfie stick / tripod from Ulanzi. Got a quick release f38 plate. Love it very much. And then this tiny, adorable little Lark M2 microphone. I have it backwards. That was the magnet. The Lark M2 microphone. I just clip it right here to my shirt and I'm good to go. This is the receiver that goes on to the camera. Just great lightweight setup. But the interesting point that I was talking about relating to gimbals is this. This is my smallest gimbal. This is the Zhiyun Crane M2S, and the Sigma 16mm and my ZV-E10 cannot balance on this. They are too front heavy of a combo to be on this particular gimbal, but the Yongnuo 16 and the ZV-E10 does balance on this gimbal. So if you don't want any crop at all and you want wonderful stabilization, you can pick up this very affordable gimbal and then take that around with the Yongnuo 16mm and then also your little ZV-E10. So that is a big win, I think, for the Yongnuo 16. If you want to balance the Sigma 16, you have to step up to the Zhiyun Crane M3S or perhaps the DJI RS3 Mini. Actually, let me jump in here real quick and say that the M2S motors are strong enough to handle the Sigma 16mm. It's just you can't perfectly balance the camera with the lens on the gimbal, so I wouldn't trust it for a long period of time, or I wouldn't want to put any filters on the front of the lens. It is workable. The gimbal is strong enough to do it, whereas though with the Yongnuo 16mm, that is perfectly balanced, no trouble at all. So while this is doable, I wouldn't recommend it. Now, when it comes to autofocus, the Sigma 16mm is famed for being fantastic, perfect in its autofocus with the Sony cameras, and to my delight, the Yongnuo held its own with that Sigma lens. It never loses me in terms of autofocus, always has a box around the eye. I actually even did an extreme low light test because usually with third-party lenses, the autofocus starts to falter badly as the light goes down and your ISO gets cranked. But I had to turn the lights off. I had to sit in pitch darkness before either of these lenses lost autofocus. So extremely impressed. When it comes to autofocus, dead silent, quiet, quick, doesn't flutter, grabs subjects every time. Wonderful job, both companies. In terms of sharpness, both lenses are extremely sharp. I would say that the Sigma in the center is a hair sharper. If you really pixel peep at 250%, I think you can see a slight bit more sharpness with the Sigma 16mm, but it is definitely not something that I would use to decide between these two lenses. When it comes to the bokeh, the out-of-focus backgrounds, they look really nice on both of these lenses. Good fall off from things that are in focus to out of focus. It doesn't get too messy, too busy back there. It is not the craziest, creamiest bokeh of all time, but very comparable on both lenses. Now, when it comes to the bokeh balls, no jokes, everybody, the bokeh balls, then I would have to give that to the Sigma. There is less of the haloing around the bokeh balls on the Sigma. Now, the Yongnuo, it looks pretty good. I really do like them. There's not much going on in terms of onion ringing and artifacts and things like that, but it does have a distinct larger outer ring that is noticeable on the bokeh balls. So the Sigma gets the win here. Another place that I think the Sigma gets the win is when it comes to flaring and ghosting. The Sigma controls it a little bit better than the Yongnuo. Both do a really good job in terms of keeping contrast. And to me, that's the most important thing when it comes to a wide-angle lens that you are especially using for video. You want to keep that contrast in there. But I would say that the Sigma does a bit of a better job when it comes to controlling the flares and the ghosting. However, the Sunstars are nicer on the Yongnuo. They have larger points when you are stopped all the way down. Then you get nicer Sunstars out of the Yongnuo. Decent ones out of the Sigma, but better on this Yongnuo. In terms of focus breathing, both lenses do a great job, which is wonderful. A lot of people are going to use these for video, so they don't want a lot of focus breathing, and you can't use that Sony focus breathing compensation because these are third-party lenses, but there's really not much need because both lenses do a great job. However, the Yongnuo does a slightly better job. There is virtually no focus breathing on the Yongnuo, and there is a tiny bit on the Sigma, but definitely not something that would be a deal breaker for me. You'd have to really pull focus from far away to close very quickly to notice anything at all with the Sigma. Chromatic aberration is very well controlled on these lenses. You have a hard time finding any at all, no matter how harsh the conditions. However, something you will find is LOCA. The longitudinal chromatic aberration is definitely present with both of these lenses down at their lowest f-stop. By the time you get to f2.8 on both of these lenses, the longitudinal chromatic aberration has virtually disappeared. But if you're down at 1.4, 1.8, then you are going to see that the places that are out of focus, you will see some cyan and some magenta colors on the out of focus areas in the foreground and the background. So what can we conclude here? Well, one thing we can say for sure is these are great lenses for the price. Now, the price will vary from country to country. Currently, the Sigma 16mm in the US is $369, and this Yongnuo is $299. But maybe you want to buy the Sigma used and you can get a cheaper price, or maybe the Yongnuo goes on sale because it often does, and then you get a cheaper price on that one. Or depending on what country you live in, they may vary in prices greatly. So I would say you take a look at your budget and you decide which one is right for you based on the price and the sales that you can see, because I will say I don't think you can go wrong with either. This guy has advantages, the Yongnuo over the Sigma, in that its build quality is better. It's an all metal build. It has autofocus to manual focus switch, focus hold button. It has a weather sealing gasket. It also is smaller and lighter and a little bit better when it comes to focus breathing. Now the Sigma 16mm, on the other hand, it lets in 2/3 of a stop of light more, so you're going to get a blurrier background if you need it. It's going to be better in low light because of that. It's just Sigma. It's a brand that you've known and trusted for years, Japanese manufactured. You know you're getting the best of the best with Sigma glass. It also controls flare and ghosting a little better and has nicer bokeh balls. So it's really up to you. So once again, thanks to Yongnuo and Sigma for providing lenses so that I can do reviews just like this. And more importantly, thanks to those companies for making great lenses that are very affordable. I love being able to present these great options to people and that won't break the bank, won't bust your budget purse strings, but you still get wonderful image quality. I just absolutely love it. But tell me down below which of the two lenses you preferred, and we'll have a nice little discussion about it. Thanks for watching this. We'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.